I really want to test out these Schwalbes, so we're going to do the double black line today. Heck yeah, dude. Wow. It feels like I'm running a lot less PSI. Yeah, just cruised right through it. Man, I think Schwalbe's onto something here. How's it going, friends? Hope you're having a fantastic day. In this video, we're testing out some brand new tires from Schwalbe. A few months ago, they released their RADIAL tires, and they make some pretty bold claims about how these things perform. Today, I'm going to give my first ride impressions on how the tires feel descending and climbing. Thanks for watching, and here we go.
Alright, so what's the big deal with these new Schwalbe radial tires? Well, radial tires have existed for decades in the automotive world, but they're new to mountain biking, and as I understand, Schwalbe is the first to dive into this. Essentially, the threads of a radial tire are at less of an angle, which allows the tire to conform better and be more compliant to the ground. So Schwalbe claims they did this to develop more flexible tires. So that allows an increased surface contact area to offer more grip, more damping, and more comfort.
All right, so I'll give you a little overview of the setup that I'm running. On the rear, we have the Schwalbe Albert Gravity. I've got a 27.5 rear wheel and the 2.5 width, and this is the radial soft compound. On the front, I've got the Schwalbe Magic Mary Trail, so a little bit lighter, not quite as thick of casing, and that's a 29-inch front wheel. So it's actually been a few years since I've ran Schwalbe tires. I really liked the Big Betty on the rear and the Magic Mary on the front. But for the past couple years, I've been running a Maxxis setup just because that's what the bikes I've purchased have had on them. So my preferred setup was a Maxxis DHR2 in the rear, in the Max Terra, and then an Assegai on the front in the Max Grip. So with this, kind of a similar setup where I've got the Ultra Soft on the front because you want to maximize the amount of grip you're getting on the front wheel, and then the Soft on the rear because the rear tire just wears down more quickly and it's not quite as necessary to have the most maximum amount of grip on the rear. Yeah, the rear wheel also takes a lot more impact and abuse, and so I went with the Gravity tire on the back. And then the front is just a trail, so you know, we'll have to see if that does the trick or if maybe in the future I would just do dual Gravity. I am running Tannus Armour front and rear. I love Tannus Armour. Use my code there on the screen for a discount. I've been running Tannus for years. I've been running this Crank Brothers wheel set for a long time now, so I think it's going to be a pretty consistent setup for me to feel the differences and nuances of these new tires. I'm running 24 PSI on the rear and 21 in the front. That's what I would normally run with a Maxxis setup. And so I'm excited to see, you know, at that air pressure, how it feels and if it's any different. Schwalbe makes some pretty bold claims about the contact patch, the contact surface of the tire that comes into contact with the trail. So their claim is that when you're riding, there's 30% more of this surface of the tire that is contacting the trail. So, you know, in theory, 30% more grip is huge. That's an insane amount. So yeah, some pretty bold claims from Schwalbe about these tires. I'm really excited to try them out and compare them to the Maxxis setup that I've been running for the past couple years. All right, friends, so we're at Raging River today in North Bend, Washington. This first trail we're gonna do is called Physical Therapy. And it's squeaky brake season. Wow. It's a slick day, but I really want to test out these Schwalbes. So we're gonna do the double black line today. That's got some roots and some some big drops. So I'm gonna try not to talk too much because I really want to focus on how I'm feeling and hear the sound of the tires, and I want you to hear that too. So I'll probably take a break at the bottom of upper PT to kind of explain how I'm feeling. That wasn't bad at all. considering the slick roots. Heck yeah, dude. Wow. Woo! So, if you've ridden PT before, especially upper PT, you'll know that that is not an easy piece of trail, even in dry conditions. It's definitely appropriately named to work out. But man, I mean, I am astounded with the Albert. I feel like I had so much grip on those roots and in those turns that I normally wouldn't have on my DHR. And obviously this is just my first impressions. I've still got a lot of testing to do, but I wasn't slip sliding around, and it's super wet, super slick. The front too felt like a Magic Mary. Let's be honest, the Magic Mary has been around for a long time. It's got a nice open tread pattern which sheds mud pretty good. So you can see there's no mud sticking to it at all. The Albert has a little tighter tread pattern, and a lot of people like it on the front, but I decided to try it in the rear. I was actually planning to try Albert rear and front, but they didn't have an Albert in 29 in stock. So I was like, well, I like the Magic Mary. I'll try the Magic Mary and do Albert in the back. And for this time of year, I think that is pretty dang good. I think if you put an Ultra Soft on the rear, you'd be hugging the ground like crazy. I mean, especially if you're doing like downhill racing, I think that would be a really great ticket right there. I mean, Amory Piron won a couple downhills last year by like 5 or 6 second margins on these new radial tires. So very capable, really grippy. Curious to see in the upcoming months, like, do they wear out quickly? Does the increased amount of contact with the tire on the ground like cause them to wear out quicker or lose some efficiency in flatter pedally sections? We'll have to see, but just on that rough upper section, that was pretty cool. Let's continue on here. I should have worn my clear goggles. It's so freaking dark today. Whoop.
Wow. Almost slipped out, but tire hooked up at the last second there. Nice. Wow. Great first experience. That was cool. All right, so I've got some climbing to do today. So I'm gonna give some initial impressions as I pedal along here about how these tires feel. And the very first thing that's noticeable is that it feels like I'm running a lot less PSI. Like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 PSI less than I actually am. If you've ever ridden with slightly flat tires before, then you might understand what I'm saying. It feels like there's less air pressure and like the tire is conforming to the ground and conforming to the bumps and rocks rather than pinging over them. It almost feels a little more sluggish when pedaling, but I think it's just because the amount of tire that's coming into contact with the ground is a lot higher. It feels like you're dragging, but the result is that you're actually getting a lot more grip. But any amount of like drag from that extra contact is probably pretty negligible, because with that extra grip you're getting the most out of each pedal stroke, right? So yeah, overall just a very like damped and grip rich feeling as you're pedaling along. So one other thing I'm noticing here, forgive my jacket on the stem, I was getting a little sweaty, but it's kind of slippery and wet, and rocks like this that are normally really slick, I'm not slipping on. You know that feeling when you're coming up to a slick root or a rock and you give a pedal stroke and that back tire just spins? I'm not really experiencing that. That's pretty sweet if you live in the Pacific Northwest and have a lot of slippery roots and rocks to climb over. So I've got a nice group of slick rocks right here that are super wet. So this will be a good test. I'm gonna try to stand up and kind of push on the pedals hard and see if I maintain grip or if I slip out at all. Yeah, just cruised right through it. Here's a wet root. Yeah, just right over it. You know, I guess in theory you could decrease the PSI in any set of tires and have your tire conform more to the ground to replicate something like that where you just maintain grip over slick surfaces. But man, I think Schwalbe's onto something here, because I can still run my normal PSI and have that protection, that puncture protection and flat protection, but still get that super grippy, damped feeling. All right, so the last trail we're gonna do is called Poppin Tops. This one's got higher speeds, some jumps, so a little bit different than PT. Again, I'm not gonna talk much. Goggles are just fogging up like crazy. Whew. trail's rolling a little slower than usual. Nice. That's pretty good. Whew. All right, well, first ride impressions are super positive. Really impressed with the radials, and obviously further testing is needed. But for conditions like today where it's wet and slick, the amount of grip on tap is really impressive. I honestly think that Schwalbe's onto something here, and these could be a game changer. I'm curious to see how they perform in the dry. I live in Wenatchee, Leavenworth area of Washington, on the other side of the mountains, and it's just a lot more dry. In the summertime, we've got a lot of dust, a lot of hard packed trails. So I think I really need to try these tires on those conditions. So I'm gonna stick with the Schwalbe's this year and mix it up a little, see what setup I like, and then decide in the long term, how does it compare to my typical Maxxis setup? Is it something that I want to switch to forever? So if you've had experience on these tires, let me know your thoughts. I'm curious to hear what other people think, and I think they'll be a great option for a lot of people. That about wraps it up for today. Thanks guys for watching. See you in the next one.